Hey there, everybody. It's me, Lily Rose, the admin here at Encouragement Corner on Facebook, and we are continuing on to the second half of Judges chapter 6. It says, early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down, and the Asherah pole beside it had been cut down. In their place, a new altar had been built, and on it were the remains of the bull that had been sacrificed. The people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making a careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, the son of Joash. "Bring out your son," the men of the town demanded of Joash. "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and for cutting down the Asherah pole." But Joash shouted to the mob and confronted them. "Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." From then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, which means "let Baal defend himself," because he broke down Baal's altar. Soon afterwards, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord took possession of Gideon. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abiezer came to him. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to help me rescue Israel as you promised." And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up early the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out the whole bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Please don't be angry with me, but let me have one more request. Let me use this fleece one more time. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night, God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. Hey guys, is it appropriate to test the Lord or to ask him to prove himself? Not really. However, this does show that God is patient with us. He knows our frailty as human beings, and that at times we will probably want to know for sure that it's him, especially since we have an enemy called the devil, right? An adversary. And so in all the things that we're called to do, especially big ones like this, we want to know that the Lord is with us and that he's going to walk with us through it. And Gideon, God bless him, had just gone through where the townspeople wanted to put him to death, right, for doing what the Lord had said. And so we just see that God is being patient with Gideon in this request. Now we're continuing into chapter 7. It says, "So Jerubbaal," that is Gideon, "and his army got up early and went as far as the spring of Harod. The armies of Midian were camped north of them in the valley near the hill of Moriah. The Lord said to Gideon, 'You have too many warriors with you. If I let all of you fight the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me and say that they themselves, by their own strength, have done it. Therefore tell the people, whoever is timid or afraid may leave this mountain and go home.' So 22,000 of them went home, leaving only 10,000 who were willing to fight. But the Lord told Gideon, 'There are still too many. Bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not.' When Gideon took his warriors down to the water, the Lord told him, 'Divide the men into 2 groups. In one group, put all those who cup water in their hands and lap it up with their tongues like a dog. In the other group, put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouths in the stream.' Only 300 of the men drank from their hands. All the others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths to the stream. The Lord told Gideon, 'With these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home.' So Gideon collected the provisions, the ram's horns of the other warriors, and sent them home. but he kept the 300 men with him. The Midianite camp was in the valley just below Gideon. That night the Lord said, "Get up, go down into the Midianite camp, for I have given you victory over them. But if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. Listen to what the Midianites are saying, and you will be greatly encouraged. Then you will be eager to attack." So Gideon took Purah and went down to the edges of the enemy camp. The armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. Their camels were like grains of sand on the seashore, too many to count. Gideon crept up, just as a man was telling the companion about a dream. The man said, "I had this dream, and in my dream a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down into the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat." His companion answered, "Your dream can only mean one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over Midian and all its allies." When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship before the Lord. Then he returned to the Israelite camp and shouted, "Get up, for the Lord has given you victory over the Midianite hordes." He divided the 300 men into 3 groups and gave each man a ram's horn and a clay jar with a torch in it. Then he said to them, "Keep your eyes on me. When I come to the edge of the camp, do just as I do. As soon as I and those with me blow the ram's horns, blow your horns too, all around the entire camp, and shout for the Lord and for Gideon." It was just after midnight, after the changing of the guard, when Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the Midianite camp. Suddenly they blew the ram's horn and broke their clay jars. Then all 3 groups blew their horns and broke their jars. They held the blazing torches in their left hand and the horn in their right, and they all shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each man stood at his position around the camp and watched as the Midianites rushed around in panic, shouting as they ran to escape. When the 300 Israelites blew their ram's horn, the Lord caused the warriors in the camp to fight against each other with their swords. Those who were not killed fled to a place as far as Beth Shittah near Zerah, and to the border of Abel Meholah near Tabbath. Then Gideon sent for warriors of Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, who joined in chasing the army of Midian. Gideon also sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down to attack the Midianites. Cut them off at the shallow crossing of the Jordan River at Beth Barah." So all the men of Ephraim did as they were told. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the 2 Midianite commanders, killing Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb, and they continued to chase the Midianites. Afterward, the Israelites brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan River. Remember, at the beginning of this little segue of time, and it's not that much time, right? Gideon was the smallest, weakest of his tribe, sitting in a wine press, grounding out grain because he was terrified. Look what the Lord can do in a person. And remember, he can do that in and through you.